We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the What's on Sports broadcast. My name is John Tedora, and I'm coming to you live from across the world right now via Facebook and YouTube. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:30 in the morning. I'm about 4 or 5 minutes late today because I had a technical problem, but we are live and ready to go. I do want to remind everybody also that you can download this show on all your favorite podcast platforms. You can go to iTunes or things like that. There's a link in the description. So if you feel like you want to listen to the entire show in like a more convenient fashion, you can do that by going to your favorite podcast platforms. And before we actually start the show, I do want to remind everybody that our sponsor is large and in charge, making everybody money, actually. Millions of dollars are being made across the country of the United States of America as sports gambling has become legalized in several states right now and will be legalized in even more. And the people over at Sports Trading Systems are teaching us how to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us. By using back-tested historical data, the people at Sports Trading System have figured out a way for you to make some money by trading sports just like other people trade stocks. So go over to sportstradingsystems.com today. Check out what they have to offer. There are some amazing deals over there, and your opportunity to grab a piece of the pie is right now. Now, before we go any further, I do want to tell you we have a pretty cool show lined up for us today. We're going to be talking about some really cool stuff. Now, first of all, I'll go over the lineup. For those of you at home that can see it, you can see some of the things that we're going to be talking about. James Harden is nuts is one of the topics. Brian Schottenheimer got fired in Seattle. And while I wouldn't usually cover something as small as an offensive coordinator voluntarily leaving or being fired or being asked to leave, however you want to put it, I would say it's an interesting topic to bring up for several reasons, and you'll find out why. We're also going to have an NBA roundup as one of our head writers over at What's on Sports joins us. Lance Fernandez will be here to talk about everything that's happening in the NBA because there's lots of news. We're also going to play a game with Lance while he's here, and Lovely, who's our social media director. It's going to be called Who is Most Likely? Just so you guys know, Lovely is super nervous to actually be on the show. She's actually backstage right now. I believe she is urinating herself. And I hopefully she's got a towel and she's cleaning it up because it's going to get sloppy. Lovely, if you're listening, I know you can do it. I have a really good feeling about the fact that you can do it. And also, if you can't do it, you're fired. We're also going to dive into our mailbag, guys, where you guys are going to send us questions, and we're going to answer them for you today. And then I've got a huge announcement about the $2 Sports Club. I know you have no idea what that means, but you will know if you stick around until the end of the show. It's your opportunity to win some money, have some good times. It's the $2 Sports Club. It's a huge announcement coming up at the end of the show. Now, the one thing I want to talk about right now is, and we have ignored a lot of what's going on in the NBA simply because the NFL has just been so exciting. But as the NFL starts to wind down, we will start to concentrate a little more on other things like the NBA. So today, I do want to talk about the fact that James Harden is nuts. But to clarify and to be clear about it, James Harden is my kind of nuts. Like, he really is. You got to give James Harden a lot of credit. I mean, the guy's not exactly the biggest guy in the NBA. He's never been the most athletic guy in the NBA. He's made that very strange beard incredibly fashionable. There are videos of James Harden interacting with fans in a very fun, like kind of cool way. Like, he doesn't shy away from actually talking to a fan when he's out in public and somebody sees him, which I think is really cool. So James Harden is actually a pretty cool kind of crazy, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Jack Sparrow saying the $2 Sports Club is interesting. Yes, I'm going to tell you guys about that later on, Jack. But James Harden has been a problem in Houston because he doesn't want to be there anymore. And, sometimes this happens. I'm really against this player empowerment thing that we've seen happen recently. But at the same token, while I'm against the player empowerment thing, I really understand that sometimes you're just done with the job you're at. Sometimes you just don't want to be there anymore. And sometimes, even if you really love your job, you may not love the place you're doing the job at. So whatever's happened over time, James Harden is no longer interested in being in Houston anymore. Maybe he broke up with his girlfriend. Maybe he's tried over and over again there and been unable to win. But whatever happened, James Harden came back into training camp this year looking at least 20 pounds heavier than he's supposed to be. He has not played well. He scored 20 or fewer points in the last 4 games. 4 games in a row. This guy is a scoring machine. He is a walking bucket. He's more likely to get 30 than he's ever likely to get 20, at least the James Harden that we know about. But in the last 4 games, James Harden has been held to 20 points or fewer in every one of them. It's the longest streak he's had since 2011-2012 season, when he was like the third man on the Oklahoma Thunder. I mean, that's incredible. That's insane. He's working right now on a 3 years left, $133 million contract. So James Harden's not playing up to the level that he's supposed to play. He came in 20 pounds overweight. He's obviously upset with even being in Houston. Maybe he's upset they have a new coach. Maybe he's upset that John Wall was brought in. I don't know what makes him so upset, but he's not happy to be there. His quote, and this is a good one, I'm going to read it for you. After the last loss they had, they just got blown out by the Lakers. He said, "I love this city. I've literally done everything that I can. I mean, this situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed." So it's kind of a vague when you read it. So when he's saying the situation can't be fixed, he's talking about the team. He's talking about this team is not playing up to expectations. I don't think it can be fixed. He's not publicly saying the words, "I want out," but he's made it known through his proxies that he wants out of Houston. So should they let him go? I don't know. It's kind of fun to keep crazy around sometimes. You got to be honest. There's something about having a slightly chubby, incredibly bearded, fun guy who goes to strip clubs around your ball club. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I will say this, and this is a prediction. I think you're going to see a lot of James Harden type of behavior from a lot of different players. You're seeing Kyrie Irving disappear, just not come back. So this is going to be a combination of what you're seeing along the lines in our social and political schemes as well. People are frustrated. This virus is a frustrating thing. Not being allowed to go out and enjoy your life is a frustrating thing. For these NBA and NFL players, being put underneath these type of stringent protocols on a daily basis is not normal behavior. So a lot of people are super unhappy about what's going on, incredibly unhappy about what's going on. And you can understand that, because it's not just their lives where this is happening. It's your life too. My life has been changed a lot, and it's frustrating for me. It makes me angry about things that I shouldn't be angry about. It makes me upset about things that I shouldn't be upset about. I find problems in things that don't even exist because sometimes I can't leave my room. So I think everyone's going through it. I don't think NBA players and NFL players are any different. I think they have bigger homes than us. I think they still have the same kind of problems when it comes to that. And I think that you're going to find a lot of James Hardens. You're going to find a lot of Kyrie Irvings, multimillionaires that are slightly eccentric anyway. And this being cut off from what is normally their very exciting social life is going to make them into a little bit more of a crazy, tough person to deal with. So I wish the Rockets and James Harden well. I don't know how they're going to fix the problem, but I have a strange feeling that this will all come to a head within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we will find out where James Harden's going to go, if anywhere. Now, speaking of changes that have happened along the landscape, the NFL is constantly changing as far as coaching goes, especially this time of year. Now, we've already had a few people fired that were let go. Doug Peterson was recently let go to make I believe the coach openings at 6 coach openings in the NFL. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong there. Lance can double check that for me before he gets on the show. I think it's 6 or 7 coach openings now. There have been a couple of offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators that have been let go or that have been retired, like Chuck Pagano out of Indianapolis. Oh, actually, it was with Indianapolis, but he just retired from the Bears as the defensive coordinator. But the one thing I want to talk about right now is Seattle, who had probably the best offense in football for the first 6 games of the year. I mean, they were on an epic pace to break huge records. As a matter of fact, the Seahawks scored the most points in franchise history, but somehow had a really bad second half. People kind of figured out what they were doing. So you look at Brian Schottenheimer, who was the offensive coordinator there, who worked for Pete Carroll. And Carroll hired Schottenheimer to come in and kind of fix a broken run game. For 2 years, he did that. Seattle had a great run game, 2017, 2018, parts of 2019. 2020 comes in, and for the first half of the season, no one in football throws the ball more than Seattle. And for the first 6 games, they have tremendous success. But teams start to figure out what's happening. and they make adjustments. And like most teams, Seattle became predictable, and that predictability led to a lot of turnovers. So Russell Wilson went from being the guy who's out there saying, let Russ cook, and, throwing more touchdowns than anybody'd seen in the first 6 games of the year, to a guy that finished, I think, 3rd or 4th in touchdowns for the year. Still had a great year, but was unable to keep up that record pace. People in the NFL were smart. People in the NFL go back and look at film. People in the NFL find tendencies. People in the NFL can figure out a way to stop you if you continue to do the same thing over and over again. Look at Pittsburgh, look at Seattle, look at teams like that started off great and somehow at the end of the year couldn't put it together. That's a lack of depth in your coaching position. Your coaches lack depth. So Pete Carroll was aware of this and tried to get Brian Schottenheimer to change the offense. Schottenheimer, who had been stuck calling run plays for 2 years, was suddenly super excited. I got one of the best quarterbacks in football. I got DK Metcalf. I've got Lockett. I've got an arsenal of weapons here. We can throw the ball 45 times a game. How exciting is that? I could be the offensive coordinator who gets the next head coaching job if I can just do this the right way. Schottenheimer failed. Beginning part of the year was great. Back half of the year was a nightmare for Seattle. Absolute nightmare. So Brian Schottenheimer voluntarily left his job, but I believe he was asked to step down. So it's better to step down than to be fired. People know. People understand. When somebody comes to me and says, I'm applying for a job, and I say, where are you working now? And they say, I'm not working anywhere. And I say, well, what happened? And they say, I stepped down from my job. You stepped down because it was either so miserable you couldn't take it anymore, or maybe you're independently wealthy and you didn't need the job. Or lastly, you were probably going to get fired and figured I will leave first. Like, she's not breaking up with me. I'm breaking up with her. And I think that's kind of what happened here in Seattle. And I hate to see it happen because it's going to be tough to find an offensive coordinator that's going to jive with Russell Wilson the way Brian Schottenheimer did. Russell Wilson basically wrote a love letter to Brian Schottenheimer on his Instagram or his Twitter. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was incredible. The amount of love that you can feel that he had given him. Like, Brian, I want to wish you all the luck in the world. I hope things work out for you. And it's a shameful thing that happens when, I don't want to say it's shameful, but it's definitely something that's hard to see when you see a quarterback and an offensive coordinator have that type of relationship, and then they lose that type of relationship. But sometimes it's the best thing for the growth of the quarterback. Again, I always tell people, I'm a Steeler fan. Ben Roethlisberger had a few pets that he kind of kept as offensive coordinators. Bruce Arians was one of them. Arians in Pittsburgh would have gotten Roethlisberger killed. It would have been the end of his career if Arians would have stayed there, because Ben would have continued to get sacked 60 times a year. It would have just continued to happen between Ben's propensity to hang on the ball and Arians' propensity to say, hang on to the ball until you can get rid of the ball. Ben would have never made it to 37. So it was best when Pittsburgh made the decision to move away from him. And it may be the best move for Seattle. I guess only time will tell, but we're here to talk about it until it does. So I want to remind everybody real quick before we go into our next segment, which is going to bring in Lance Fernandez. Sports Trading System is our sponsor, and they do some incredible things over there. Right now for the NBA season, which just started a few weeks ago, they're up 78%. Now that means if you would have invested $100 in some wagers and taken the advice from Sports Trading Systems, you would now have $178. Now that's a lot of money. That's a lot of return on your investment over the course of just a few weeks. Now, when I say you take $100, I'm not saying you would bet the entire $100. I'm saying that would be your bankroll, and you'd probably do $10, $20 bets, something like that, and you would have grown that $100 into $178 over the course of just a few weeks. So now, extrapolate that over the course of a season, and we're 7 to 8, 9, 10 games into a season. Extrapolate that 7 times if they stay on this pace. If they stay on the current pace that they are, you can extrapolate that 7 times. So you're at 70% right now. That means you'll be at 340% by the end of the season. So that $100 would be $440 by the end of the year. So you're looking at a 3-month process to be able to quadruple your money. There is no investment like that except for what I'm talking about here. The people over at Sports Trading System use back-tested historical data to teach you how to trade sports just like other people trade stocks. Go there today and learn more. Now, for those of you watching us on YouTube and on Facebook, welcome to the live feed. It's great to have you. I also want to remind everybody out there, and this is important, that you can download this show at all of your favorite podcast places. Go over there to Apple, iTunes, lots of places like that. You can even go to our website and listen to the shows, which is whatsonsports.com. And you can also catch the show in clips if you go over to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, in the little box, type What's on Sports. You'll love the content that we're giving you. At least I hope that you will. Speaking of content, we also do some really, really awesome written content. We have a website. It's called whatsonsports.com. We've got some very talented writers over there. One of them is joining us on the show right now. His name is Lance Fernandez. He used to write for Fox Sports. Now he writes for What's on Sports. The guy loves sports. You're really kind of a sports addict, sports junkie, I would say, Lance. Welcome to the show. But I would also say that you're a huge NBA junkie, right? Awesome, Lance. You got to hit the unmute button on your thing there. Hang on, let's try this. There we go. Let's try that again. Say it again.
Yeah, so aside from the NFL, I'm also a huge NBA fan. I follow it whenever I can and also catch games whenever I have time on NBA League Pass.
Oh, awesome. And you have the dream to be an NBA general manager. So
given an opportunity, yeah, I would like to have a hand at building a roster and try to bring them to a championship or multiple championships at that. So I hope that they hear my plea and God will answer all of my prayers and novenas that someday I'll be in charge of a franchise and not tear it down like some of the general managers in the past.
Okay. All right. So today you're here to join us for the NBA Roundup. For those people out there that have been so entrenched in football that haven't been paying attention, the NBA season started right before Christmas. We're like 2.5 weeks into it right now. Tons and tons of drama, tons and tons of news. I mean, everything from Kyrie disappearing to James Harden wanting out of Houston. Let's do a wrap-up real quick. Let's do an NBA Roundup to tell me what's going on around the NBA.
Okay, so first things first, the most surprising team in the NBA right now are the Charlotte Hornets. Imagine Michael Jordan's team, much maligned, much castigated over the past few seasons, but now they have all the weapons to be something in the league. And for all the criticism that Gordon Hayward contract prior to the season received from members of the media and all NBA fans for that matter, Gordon Hayward is wasted. Gordon Hayward is not the same player that he is. He is playing ball as of the start of the season. He is putting up good numbers, and he also has a great supporting cast in former Celtic teammate Terry Rozier, big man PJ Washington, and Devontae Graham. And more importantly, rookie LaMelo Ball is also showing that he is worth a high NBA draft pick. So they have the tools now to contend in the NBA, especially in the Eastern Conference. And who knows where they might end up. Most likely in the playoffs, a low seed, but they are trending right now, and they are one of the more exciting teams to watch in the NBA.
You know, before the season started, there were a lot of people making fun of LaMelo Ball. There were a lot of people criticizing, including us in the break room, sitting around talking about how Michael Jordan was a great player, but just was not a good GM, could not figure out that part of the game. I don't know. I guess everybody was wrong, at least to start off the season. I don't know how far this team's going to go, but you are really, really right. They're very exciting. LaMelo had a triple-double the other day. I believe he was the youngest guy in the NBA history to ever have a triple-double. So it's a pretty impressive start. What else you got?
Okay, second topic for this NBA roundup. And just like what you mentioned earlier, I would like to put this question to you. Are we officially in the diva era of the NBA? Because players have too much power. James Harden is just not wanting to play better. He shot like 5 out of 16 and 1 out of 6 from 3-point land against the Lakers, their last loss. And then he essentially gave a press conference that indicates that he has 1 foot out of Houston already, much to John Wall's anger that 9 games into the season and you are already jumping off the cliff. So there's turmoil in Houston because for the first time ever, James Harden isn't in control of the franchise. The play,
Mm.
the officials, the coaches that has allowed him to be in control for 8 years and change are not there anymore. There's a new regime, and he has to follow, and he hasn't been a follower since he was there. So that's an adjustment problem for James Harden, obviously, because there has been a lot of all stars that came to H Town and have bounced out after a season or two. So, well, from those instances alone, you know who the problem is. It's not those stars that went out. It's that star who remained throughout that stretch. And how can we even begin with Kyrie Irving just going out, getting off the grid for no warning? Essentially, he just went out, just did not notify head coach Steve Nash that he is not playing. I believe that was the game immediately after the protest happened in Capitol Hill, that he essentially cut ties, quote unquote, with the Brooklyn Nets. And then rumor has it that he attended a birthday party of his sister and his father, and attended a Zoom meeting
Yeah.
of a district attorney that tackled social justice. So I do admire that Kyrie would like to know more about these issues, but bottom line is he does have an obligation with the Nets as well. So with James Harden and Kyrie Irving acting this way, who knows? Some other prospect down the road might see this as a good thing if they
Uh,
want to get leverage against their team, and we might be entering in a diva era already.
yeah, I would go back and say that I don't think we might be entering into a diva era. I would say we have entered the diva era, and it was very predictable. The second the NBA said that you're no longer employees, you're partners in what we do, well, that's a disaster. You can't have a partner that's invested nothing. The NBA players have invested nothing into actually playing the game of basketball. Now you can say they've invested their time and energy, but they've been paid for that. They've been paid for it all along the way. The only time they weren't paid for it was in high school. If they went to college, they were paid by via a scholarship and all the supplemental incomes that are given to college players. Do they get rich in college? No, they do not. Are they paid enough? That's not for me to say. The fact of the matter is they are paid something. Does an education cost too much in America now, and that shouldn't be considered a value? That's not for me to say. I do know that it does have a value. It does cost $25,000 a year to go to Kentucky, and when you get to go to Kentucky for a year, that's part of what your pay is. So as an 18-year-old kid with zero skills except learning how to play basketball, to get a free education, to get an extra $5,000 or $6,000 a year in supplemental incomes for stipends, for food, for room and board, and for things like that, along with your education, is being paid. Once you go to the NBA, you're being paid. James Harden is being paid. Kyrie Irving is being paid. Not showing up to work means you should be fired. You should lose that money. You should lose that opportunity. Or we should start to fine you at some point. You should have to pay us because we've invested a certain amount of money in you. And we're only allowed to invest X amount of dollars. There's something called a salary cap. So if I give you 26% of my salary cap and you choose not to show up, I should be able to charge you 26% of lost revenue for people that are upset of how you've hurt my brand. Imagine going to a Brooklyn game right now, thinking you're going to see Kyrie Irving play. You get there and you realize he just didn't show up. I paid for a ticket. Or I watched a game. I guess there are no tickets now, but I watched the game thinking I paid to show this game assuming he was going to play. He's not injured. He just didn't show up. So I just think I think the player empowerment things, like the movement has gone, with everything else has gone too extreme and too far. I don't give a shit about your social justice things that you're trying to do. They're great causes. Do them on your own time. It doesn't mean you get to skip work. I encourage the people that work for me to have a platform and to do the things that they think are right in the world. Donate to your charities, go to churches, do the things, but do it in your own time. Don't do it during ours. So I think I went a little bit on a diatribe there, but yes, you're 100% right. The player empowerment is way too much. What's our next topic?
Okay, third and last topic for this NBA roundup. It's somewhat a throwback to last season. So we had a bubble and it was finished. The Lakers won a championship. And now about 6 or 7 NBA games have been canceled due to COVID protocols. There has been a match wherein 7 Boston Celtics were deemed unfit to play due to COVID restrictions. And there have been a number of games that might be canceled down the horizon. So the question raised is, will the NBA be better off if they went prior to the season back in the bubble, play within controlled confines, all 30 NBA teams, and they have proven that they can do it last season. No positive tests whatsoever. So now that COVID cases are spiking up and a lot of players are missing, are healthy scratches essentially, because they've just been in close contact with a COVID positive player or a person. The question has been raised: would the NBA be better off doing a bubble season once more in 2020, 2021?
So I hear this conversation come up a lot recently, and I hear people comparing the NBA to the NFL. Well, the NFL was able to somehow keep things basically under control. They had a couple small outbreaks. They didn't move a couple games around, but they were able to keep things basically under control. Why can't the NBA do the same thing? Well, it's a completely different animal to me. The NFL was 16 games over 17 weeks. The NBA is 72 games over the course of what will be, 14 or 15 weeks. There's not a lot of wiggle room. And the NBA players can't sit at home and wait for the next game and take all these special protocols, because they play 4 days a week, 5 days a week. So it's very difficult to not be around people, to not continue to put yourself in harm's way. The other difference is the NFL's got vast rosters, and they allowed them to really stack their rosters with extra people on the practice squad, special exemptions so that you wouldn't lose people. So the NFL had a lot of extra people. The NBA doesn't. An NBA team goes 12 deep. So there are no extra people to kind of like have around. So you start to get 3, 4, 5 guys sick on a team, you can barely fill the roster. So I think that you're looking at completely different animals here. Now the question goes back to, should they bubble the players? And I think the answer is no. I think the answer is, I don't think that any NBA player, if he's got friends, family, a wife, kids, wants to be locked up for 10 to 12 weeks. At some point, if that happens, you will see a lot more Kyrie Irvings who just disappear or, can't take it anymore. So I think the answer is the same answer for everybody else. Go home, keep yourself quarantined. Don't go to the club. Don't go to birthday parties. It's just not happening right now. We don't want to see it. If we see it happen, we're going to do a Dwayne Haskins on you. We're going to fine you. We're going to talk about, taking some money out of your salary, whatever it is going to be. That's what we have to do. So that's really, I think, the answer to the question right there. Lance, great information. I'm glad you only had 3 topics for the NBA, because I think we could have talked about the NBA for 5 hours. But yeah. I'm going to bring you back in just a second, and we're going to play a fun little game. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody, I want you all to stick around, because at the end of the show, towards the end of the show, I'm going to be explaining something really huge to you. It's something that we're doing that's brand new. It's brand new. It's called the $2 Sports Club. And it's an opportunity for you guys to not only enjoy some of the best sports content on the internet, but also to get an opportunity to win some cool money. Now, stick around, because this opportunity is going to be amazing, and it's going to be yours. So just, hang out with us for a minute here. So we're going to play a little game right now. And we love games on this show. For those of you that have watched the show along the way, you realize we like games, and we love interactive games. We love when people are interactive with us and have a little bit of fun. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring a very special guest on, and her name is Lovely Glorioso.
Hey, guys.
Lovely. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Doing
Very
awesome,
good.
Lovely. Yeah.
So we got Lovely Glorioso. We've got Lance Fernandez. For those of you that watch the show, Lance is one of our writers over at What's on Sports. And, What's on Sports is owned by a pretty large company. Lovely is actually our social media manager, and she takes care of our Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube channels. And today, she's actually coming on the show as the host of a show called Who is Most Likely. And Lovely has been given 5 questions. And I'm gonna preface all this so everybody understands. Lovely is a huge fan of making money, so that's why she likes her job. She's not a huge sports fan. So the name of this game is Who is Most Likely. She's going to ask us questions. Who is most likely to? And Lance and I are both going to answer. And then Lovely is going to give each one of us points based off of our answer. So Lovely, you can give us points, 1 to 5 points for our answers. Each one of us gets an answer. people at home can also chime in the comment section if they want to leave if they want to leave a comment. Like we just got one from Eusebius, liking your RGB setup, John. Thank you. Somebody liked my lights. That's a nice one. That's okay. At least the people are paying attention, right? All right. So lovely. You've got 5 questions. Lance and I have 5 answers. One of us is going to score more points. I hope it's me. Ready, set, go.
All right, so let me go over this question so I can get out of here. The first question for you guys. Number 1. What NFL team is most likely to lose at home this weekend? Is it the Bills, Green Bay, Kansas City, or New Orleans?
Ooh. Lance, you can go first.
I would have
I'll
to
go
go with
first.
the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, sorry about that, John. So just spur of the moment. I would have to go with the Buffalo Bills because even though they are riding high and they're playing at home with that extreme conditions because it's snowy already in Buffalo, I guess the Baltimore Ravens have what it takes to defeat them. Mind you that Indianapolis almost won against the Buffalo Bills. So that's a testament to how poor their defense is. So with Baltimore having a hybrid offense with a J.K. Dobbins and a Lamar Jackson, who knows how many rushing yards the Baltimore Ravens can have against the Buffalo Bills. So it could turn out to be a low-scoring game, especially if Lamar and J.K. can break great runs or long runs all throughout the game. And that would be a headache for the entire Bills defense if that happened. And ultimately, they can lose the match.
Lance, I want to start off by saying, how dare you speak to Lovely that way? Now, I said before we started that Lovely was not a huge sports fan, and you used really big sports words for Lovely. And she's sitting there right now thinking to herself, Lance, that's just not fair. I can't possibly judge you with words I don't understand. So I'm going to talk to Lovely in a way she understands, in a way that all sports fans will understand. First of all, I'm not going to pick the Bills, not because of anything else except that you're wrong, Lance. You're just completely wrong. The team that is most likely to lose at home is going to be Green Bay. And there's a couple reasons. First of all, Aaron Rodgers is super handsome, and a lot of people know that. People would mostly agree Aaron Rodgers is handsome. Also, a lot of people would agree that the Rams have a lot of handsome players as well. But the reason that they're most likely to lose at home to the Rams is because the Rams have a very strong defense. Very strong. That's right. The Rams can play against anybody. And that's what's good about the Rams. They also have a very good coach who happens to be incredibly handsome. So if I'm going to give you any answer at all, especially in a way that Lovely can understand, I would say that I think Green Bay is most likely to lose.
Okay, thank you for your answers, guys. But, okay, because I heard the words handsome and Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to give the point to John.
Oh, come on. Okay, at least it's a lesson learned that I have to just mention handsome 5 times in my answers, even though
too late
there's no
now.
handsome players.
Too late now. She'll know you're copying what I do. She'll realize that you're copying me. So you have to come up with your own strategy.
I can
Alright.
use some synonyms, I guess. Handsome, pretty, gorgeous.
Yeah.
That would get Lovely's attention, I believe. Yeah, lesson learned. Sorry for the
Alright,
question.
alright.
Question number 2.
Okay, question number 2 is what is more likely to happen? Deshaun Watson get traded or stay with his team?
All right, I'll answer this one first. And before I go too deep into it, I just want to say, Lance, I really hope that you don't speak down to Lovely like she's dumb, because she's not a dumb person. She's just not a huge sports fan. And I'll also say this. I think that when we talked before about player empowerment and players becoming too strong, I think the Deshaun Watson story is a great example of that. I think that the team is going to be strong, and I don't think the team is going to give in to the fact that he's asking to be traded. I think they're going to say, it's too bad. You're under contract. We pay you a lot of money. You're the face of the franchise. You're staying here, whether you really, really want to stay here or not, because you already signed a contract. So I don't believe the Texans are going to explore any option unless it comes from the New York Jets. I think the only trade they would possibly think about is the Jets, if the Jets were to give them Darnold and 3 first-round picks, which the Jets could do because they have a ton of picks. So that's the only option I see happening. If it's not the Jets, it's just not going to happen.
All right, what say you, Lance?
I believe that the trade would not ultimately happen because, first of all, his contract is hard to move. It's just a super huge contract, and you find zero to little takers of that contract, even though Deshaun Watson specified Miami as one of his preferred destinations. The Dolphins don't have enough trade assets, draft picks, and players that could compensate or that can match his salary to be able to make the trade possible. And I believe wholeheartedly that Deshaun Watson did this just to gain attention because his opinion was not being heard of when Nick Casario was hired. His opinion was not being heard when the head coaching um,
Bro.
hiring was happening. His preferred head coach, Eric Bieniemy, was not interviewed, and that just hurt Deshaun Watson. But at the end, I guess they will be able to patch up some holes and mend their relationships. And I believe that in the end, Deshaun Watson will eventually stay with the Texans.
All right, okay. Thank you for your answers. Now I saw Jan doing those things, but let me see. For this question, I think I'm going to lean more on Lance. I will give him the point. I agree on his sentiment about these people, these players, maybe just gathering attention. I don't know sports, but I kind of lean on his answer. So I'm giving the point to Lance on this question. Okay. All right. For the third one, here's your third
By the way,
question.
the next time we do this segment, I want to change the name to I don't know sports. Go
Just so
ahead.
everybody know, I am the only one in the team, Watson Sports team, that you can ask question anything about sports, and I will absolutely not nail it because I don't know anything about sports. But
Yeah.
anyway, for the question number 3, okay. Speaking of Houston, what is more likely? James Harden staying in Houston or getting traded?
Ooh. Lance?
James Harden is out. He has quit. Just like I've been mentioned in the previous segment, he doesn't have power anymore. And when you take power out of somebody who has been accustomed to having that power for 8 seasons or more, he would just balk out and just ask for a trade. Uh, Brooklyn has been specified as one of those destinations, but they have a problem of their own in Kyrie Irving. But that's another matter for another subject. And I guess and even if they don't have James Harden out, they Houston will have a pretty good team still with a John Wall, with a Christian Wood, with a Ben McLemore, and an Eric Gordon. So you still have a nice core, playoff, a fringe playoff contender might be, and the chemistry might be better without James Harden.
So listen, you're right, but you're wrong. I think Harden leaves. I think Harden eventually goes. I think eventually he goes, and I think he eventually goes because they get it's like a mafia thing. They get an offer they can't refuse. Someone's going to offer them something so big, such a huge package. It's going to be a young superstar. It's going to be 3 or 4 first round picks. It's going to be something like that to finally get rid of James Harden and to start over again. And most importantly, it's going to be someone that really fits with the other superstar they have there in John Wall. So they'll start to build around other players now, and they'll be able to let go of Harden. They're gonna really focus on team chemistry. You have to remember this is a new regime there, a new general manager, a new head coach. So everything that's going on there is going on there for a reason. I believe that a lot of people left that area and didn't stick around because if you ever work with somebody that no one really likes and nobody really cares for, it's a little bit crazy, but the boss just won't fire him. That's who James Harden is. And I think it's time for him to go. He will go. And for all the reasons I explained, which is the best answer that we've possibly given here today, that's why he'll go. Lovely?
Okay. For the question number 3, I think I like John's answer more. Sorry, Lance.
Come on.
Okay. All right. So let's head over to question
That's how you win
number.
ball games, by the way.
Because there's still
What?
two questions left.
Right. Okay. Question number 4. What is more likely? Urban Meyer taking the job in Jacksonville or Jacksonville hiring a different coach?
Okay, first of all, Lovely, if no one's told you this today, you look absolutely beautiful in the camera.
Thank
I don't
you.
know what you did today, but normally you look gorgeous, but today it's just like, wow, you look like a model. Second
Thank
of
you.
all, his name is Urban Meyer.
Oh,
So
Meyer. Okay.
so you said his name wrong, but that's okay because
Yeah.
when you have that kind of beauty, you can make those kind of mistakes. And number 3, I think he ends up not taking the job, and I hope he doesn't for Jacksonville's sake. For me, every business relationship is a relationship. I always say this. And if you're going to hire somebody like an Urban Meyer and it's taking this long to put together a deal, it would almost be like me chasing around a girl for 2 or 3 months to get her to go out with me. She doesn't want to do it. If I finally wear her down to the point where she says, "Yeah, I'll go out with you," it's probably not going to be a great experience because she didn't want to do it initially. So there has to be that initial attraction to between two people, between a person and a job, between, in this case, a coach and a franchise. And I don't think there's the initial attraction there that's made this easy. I do understand this is business, so the negotiation has to take place a little bit, but nothing that I've heard through the grapevine leads me to believe that Urban Meyer is truly interested in this job. I think he'll only take it if it's perfect. And because of that, I don't think he takes it, and I don't think he should take it.
So I would have to disagree with John. I believe that Urban Meyer is 100% the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Imagine this, the owner of the team inviting a prospective coaching candidate on his yacht. And usually when that happens, more often than not, you'd have to accept the job because he has extended his hand enough for you to be welcome in
No.
his yacht. And then
Hang on.
second of all,
Hang
there
on.
have
That's
been-
like saying if I invite a girl to my yacht, she has to bang me. That's not true. No one has to do anything because they're going to a yacht. You're just coming over for a drink or two. Just saying.
Well, if he didn't want the job anyway, he could have just said no. And then, second of all, there have been news items wherein Urban Meyer is already assembling his assistant coach's staff for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I believe we're just days, if not hours, from the announcement of Urban Meyer being the next head coach of the Jaguars.
Okay. All right. I see you, John. Okay, let me think. For the
No.
question number 4, I like how elaborate John's answer is. So I'm going to pick his answer for the question number 4. Okay. So what's the point
Champion!
now? I think John wins already, but I still have one last question for you guys.
All right, bring it on.
All right.
Yeah, just
The
for
last
bragging,
one.
right? So.
Okay, the last one is, who is more likely to retire first? Is it LeBron James or Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going to answer the question, but we just had a chat comment that says bluff for more money. That's not actually how you play the game, but it's a great idea. I'm all in. I'm all in on this question. The first one that's going to retire will be Aaron Rodgers. LeBron James will not leave until they make him leave because Aaron Rodgers doesn't need football. LeBron James needs basketball. The guy's ego's too big. If he leaves basketball, he won't feel like he's anybody to anybody. So I don't think, as much as LeBron James is trying to set himself up to have that Kobe, Shaq type of after career, I don't think that's going to be available to him as easily as it is to other guys because, quite honestly, LeBron just isn't that smart. He's just not a very smart person when you listen to him talk. Now, as he's gotten older, he has become a little wiser. It happens to all of us. But, at the age of 40, he should know more than he knows. The guy's lived in a bubble for most of his life because he's been a millionaire since he was 18 years old. He's been a multi-millionaire since he was 18. When that happens, you're surrounded by a lot of people that tell you how great you are. But until you actually do something great outside of basketball, I think you'll always be known as a basketball player. And somebody like LeBron needs to be LeBron.
Okay, Lance.
I might beat him. I might beat him in every question today. I'm really that good at this.
I scored one.
I might
guess,
get this one.
First one to retire between LeBron and Aaron Rodgers. I would have to go with LeBron James. I would make this quick. I guess LeBron James is just waiting for his son to enter the NBA. So he is under contract for the Lakers for 2 more years or 1 year. And then when that contract expires and when his son Bronny enters the league, he would sign with whichever team Bronny plays in so that they can have that father-son tandem in the NBA. And then after 1 season, he walks off into the sunset.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
Yep.
See, you
Okay.
can't possibly get points for that. You
I
can't
wanted
get
to
points.
give you this point, Lance. Okay. For the question number 5, although John already won, I'm just gonna give this point to Lance.
Oh,
Yeah, give him a chance, man.
Talk
Okay,
about
come on.
consolation.
Yeah. Although I like your answer, Jan. Maybe I could give one for each.
I'll take it.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, I think that's it for me, guys.
Lovely. Thank you so much. You did a great job.
Thank
Let's
you.
hear it for Lovely. Lovely and Lance, thank you both for being on the show right now, man. Well, that was fun. And again, I won. I believe, by the way, I'm undefeated in every one of our shows, which is like, awesome. I love winning. So for those of you that don't know it, we have a website. It's called whatsonsports.com. It's whatsonsports.com. Lots of great articles, lots of great videos, lots of great content over there. You can go over and check it out anytime you want to. And on the show, on the website, that is, we have a little section that's called the mailbag. And we let you guys send in questions that we will answer on this exact show. We'll do our best to answer the question to the best of our ability. The questions are loaded by our producer before the show. I do not know what the questions are. I just look at them and I answer. First thing comes off the top of my head by clicking buttons like this. Here's our first question of the day. The way he played on the national championship game, is there a possibility that Alabama quarterback Mac Jones will be drafted higher than Justin Fields? The answer to that question has been asked a few times in the media. I'll tell you the real answer. People were like kind of pussyfooting around everything. The real answer is no, he won't. Mac Jones had a great championship game. He had a great season. There are some questions about a few things. First of all, he's loaded with talent. And I know Justin Fields has a lot of talent at Ohio State, but nobody in the college football history has had the talent that Alabama has had. That is a recruiting machine. They are absolutely fantastic. I do not believe that I got a lot of comments over here coming in. I do not believe that Mac Jones will be drafted ahead of Justin Fields, because Mac Jones is not the athlete that Justin Fields is. And in today's NFL, people want athletes. People want somebody that can actually run the ball. People want somebody that can actually add that extra element of mobility to the game. And I don't believe that Mac Jones can do that. He's an average athlete. In the NFL, he will be a statue. He will not move very much. He will move on occasion. He'll be a Ben Roethlisberger type who, runs for 5 or 6 yards and looks awkward doing it. So I don't think Mac Jones will be drafted higher than Justin Fields. I do think that Mac Jones has a higher floor than Justin Fields. I think Mac Jones has the ability to be an Andy Dalton or better and I think Justin Fields has the chance to be a Deshaun Watson or far, far worse. So I think there's kind of some play in there. So let's see what happens. But as far as I can tell right now, everything that I've seen, I don't believe Justin Fields goes any lower just because of his athletic ability. He's still a top 5 quarterback, even though he didn't have a great NCAA championship. With all the suspensions happening, would the NBA be better off returning to a bubble? We talked about this earlier. I do not believe the NBA has a better chance of being in a bubble than they do of being in the world they're in right now. Look, this is a reality that we live in. COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon. And even though there's vaccinations and people will have an opportunity to limit their exposure by taking these vaccinations, this doesn't mean that COVID's going away. It means that we need to go out and we need to be diligent and we need to take care of, wash our hands, wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from each other. It doesn't sound that hard. It is hard, obviously. So I don't want to play it off like it's not like it's a super easy thing to do. It is hard to do, but for these NBA players, it's unfortunate for them. But you're going to have to just isolate yourself and not try to get the rest of your team sick. If you do, you will just have to forfeit games. So to me, I think the NBA is approaching this in kind of the wrong way. I would say, look, we have 72 games this year. The solution to this is very simple. If you get sick, if your team can't field the team, if your team gets to the point where we feel that letting you play could be a detriment to other players, then you will lose the game. So there is no suspending the game. There is no postponing the game. It's if it was your fault, if it was the fault of your organization, you will lose the game. And I know that would put a giant asterisk next to the season, but I think it's the only way to get people to stop doing what they're doing. It's the only way to get these NBA players to take it serious. If you do it, your team will lose. These guys are competitors and they want to win. It may actually work. Last question coming out of our mailbag. Will snow affect the Baltimore Ravens' performance against the Bills in the divisional round? Look, I think if snow is going to affect anybody in the divisional round, I think it'll affect Buffalo. Now, you can say, well, that's Buffalo's home turf. They're more used to it. Well, it's not like it's nice in Baltimore. It's not like you're getting sunny days in Baltimore in the middle of the winter. So that's a team that's actually built for cold weather. Cold weather teams tend to run better, especially cold weather teams that have some quickness to them. And cold weather teams that have a guy like a Gus Edwards, who's really just a bull. Like Gus Edwards is a snowplow for the Baltimore Ravens. So you can run some of your big backs up the middle. You got that quarterback that can make that one cut and go. And then you got Josh Allen, who's really turned into a guy who runs sometimes, but really prefers to throw the ball and does it really well. So it's hard to throw the ball in the snow. It's easier to run the ball in the snow. The Buffalo Bills are not very good at running the ball. The Baltimore Ravens are obviously, to me, the best running football team in the NFL. And at the very least, they're the best running football team left in the playoffs. So I think we could be on a collision course right now for Baltimore and Kansas City. I think it could be headed that way, which is where a lot of us thought it would be before the season started. And in a strange way, we're going to probably end up there again. But I think Baltimore is going to have a much better time in the snow than we're going to have, than Buffalo's going to have. So I have one last thing I want to talk about today before we end the show, and I know we've gone a bit long, but I want to let you guys know something that we're planning over at What's on Sports. And it's a brand new promotion that we will be engaging with our audience in a completely new, different way. So we're going to be doing something called the $2 Sports Club. And inside the $2 Sports Club, we're going to be charging, of course, $2 to be a membership, to be a part of this membership. And you'll be able to read some of our in-depth articles that you can't read in the public, but there'll be a lot more stuff involved in it. So what we're doing is for the $2 Sports Club, we're actually putting together a list of things that we'll be able to give our memberships. So anyone that joins our membership and becomes a VIP member for $2 a month will get access to really cool interviews that we have set up. So over the next couple of weeks, I've got interviews set up with Jonathan Coachman, who used to be the coach for the WWE and then worked for ESPN. I've got an in-depth interview with Michael Francesi, who used to be a mafia boss, who is now like a retired mafia boss, but the mafia was really involved in sports gambling for a while. Michael's extremely knowledgeable about the topic. We're going to bring him on to talk strictly sports gambling, and of course, we'll dive into a few mafia topics as well. And then I've got Ryan Clark from ESPN, also scheduled to be a part of the show. And what we'll do is all these interviews will be part of the member section. And what makes it really cool is you won't just be able to see the interviews. You'll be able to interact with them. So we'll tell you when the interview is going to happen live. You'll be able to join us inside the chat room and ask these guys questions. So it'll be your opportunity to actually come on the show and ask these guys questions that no one else has ever thought to ask them. So whoever has the best questions will actually let you on the show, and you'll get to be a part of it. We're also going to be doing some really cool stuff. The whole thing is sponsored by our friends over at BetUS. We'll be using BetUS with a brand new promotion that no one's ever seen before. It's going to be a $25 free play for all of our members. You'll get an opportunity for only $2 to get a BetUS $25 free play. There'll be no obligation required. You'll go over, they'll give you $25 that you can gamble with, and you can try to win money with BetUS just by joining our little program for $2 a month. One last value will be added, and this is probably the best value out of the whole thing. Off the What's on Sports store, which will be launching this week, there'll be a ton of cool products in there on the What's on Sports store. And if you were to join our $2 club, you'll be getting discounts off of everything inside the store, as well as everything off of our third-party product list. And I've been dealing with a ton of vendors, talking to people. The whole staff has been out doing outreach to vendors to find the best deals possible, deals you can't find anywhere else on the internet. all deals that really focus towards the kind of sports people that we have out there. So you guys will have an opportunity to get all these things at an incredible discount for just joining the club for $2. So guys, this is going to be great. The whole thing should be launched in 2 weeks. So by the end of January, we'll be rocking and ready to go. I look forward to you guys being part of the $2 Sports Club. It's going to be huge. More details will be launched in the next few weeks. So stick around and keep listening to the show. My name is John Tenora. I've been your host today on the What's on Sports podcast. It's been our pleasure to have you. Real quick, I want to remind you, don't forget to go over to our website, which is whatsonsports.com. Check out what's going on there. Go over to our sponsor, which is sportstradingsystems.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll see you again Friday, 10:30 a.m.